My heels clicked across the marble lobby of Meridian Tower the morning I decided not to warn anyone I was coming. I hadn't planned it that way. I'd scheduled a routine walkthrough of the building's 4th floor, new HVAC installation, contractor sign-off, the kind of thing I usually sent my property manager to handle. But something made me want to do it myself that Tuesday. Maybe it was the coffee. Maybe it was the way the sky looked over downtown Portland, that particular winter gray that always made me feel like I needed to move, to do something with my hands. I told myself it was just business. I was the owner. Owners inspect their properties. I was halfway to the elevator when I saw my mother's coat. I recognized it before I recognized her, that ridiculous burgundy wool coat with the oversized brass buttons she'd had since I was 12. She was standing at the reception desk on the 4th floor, visible through the glass partition, signing something on a clipboard. My father stood behind her, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels, the way he always did when he was nervous about money. And next to him, pointing at something on the wall with the easy confidence of a man who had never once questioned whether he belonged somewhere, my brother. I stopped walking. My first instinct was to leave. I want to be honest about that. 2 years of building something from nothing. 2 years of not once picking up the phone when their names appeared on my screen. And my first instinct was still to turn around and let the elevator take me back down to the ground floor where I could breathe. That instinct lasted about 4 seconds. Then something else took over, something quieter and colder than anger, and I walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the 4th floor. I need you to understand what those 2 years looked like before I tell you what happened next. I was 26 when my father sat me down in his office and told me the board had voted to restructure my role in Harlow & Sons, the construction supply company my grandfather built, and my father had run for 30 years. I'd worked there since I was 19, started in accounts receivable during college, moved to operations after I graduated, spent 2 years rebuilding their procurement system from scratch, and saving them somewhere around $400,000 in vendor contracts. I knew that company's finances better than anyone except my father's accountant, a quiet man named Gerald who always smelled faintly of cigarettes and never made eye contact. The restructuring, my father explained, meant my shares, 18%, gifted to me by my grandfather before he died, were being bought back by the company at the original valuation from 7 years ago. Not current value, not adjusted for the growth that had happened partly because of my work. The number he put on the table was $62,000. My brother's voice came from the doorway. He'd been standing there the whole time. "It's a fair offer," he said. "We need the liquidity." My brother was 31 then. He joined the company 3 years before me, spent most of his time in sales, and had recently convinced my father that what Harlow & Sons really needed was a rebrand and a new downtown office decisions that had cost the company significantly more than $62,000. But he was my father's son in the way that I, apparently, was not. He had the handshake. He had the laugh. He had the name Harlow, which he used freely and loudly in every room he entered, while I had spent years being introduced as Kyle's sister at company events, even after I outranked him on the organizational chart. I asked my father if he understood what 18% of Harlow & Sons was actually worth at current valuation. He said the current valuation was the board's business, not mine. I asked who was on the board. He said himself, my brother, and 2 outside directors my brother had brought in 6 months ago. I sat with that for a moment. Then I signed the paperwork, took the $62,000, and walked out. My mother was in the hallway. She touched my arm and said she hoped I understood this was what was best for the family. I told her I did. I told her I understood completely. I did not call them for 2 years. The $62,000 became the down payment on a small commercial property in southeast Portland, a converted warehouse I found through an estate sale, priced low because it needed significant electrical work. I knew a contractor. I knew how to read a lease. I knew, from years of operations work, exactly what commercial tenants needed and what they were willing to pay for it. I spent 14 months working with a business partner, my college roommate's husband, a commercial real estate attorney named David, and we turned that warehouse into 4 fully leased studio spaces for creative agencies. The cash flow from that funded the next acquisition, then the next. Meridian Tower, a 6-story Class B office building in the Pearl District, was our 4th property. We'd acquired it 18 months ago from a developer who'd overextended during a bad quarter. It wasn't glamorous, but it was 40% below market rate. It had good bones, and by the time we'd finished the lobby renovation, the leasing inquiries came in faster than we could process them. I had not known, when the property management company signed a new tenant for Suite 401, that the tenant was Harlow & Sons. To be fair, I didn't scrutinize every lease application personally. We had a process. David reviewed the financials, the management company handled the paperwork, and I got a summary. The summary had said construction supply company, 5-year term, strong payment history. I had not asked for the name. I was thinking about all of this as the elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. My mother saw me first. Her face did something complicated, a sequence of emotions moving across it too fast to track individually, landing finally on something that looked like relief, which was the last thing I'd expected. "Claire," she said. My father turned. My brother turned. I was wearing a charcoal blazer, carrying a building inspection clipboard, and standing in front of an elevator with my name on the directory behind me. Meridian Tower. Property Management. Claire Harlow. Managing partner, though they would have had to turn around to read it. "What are you doing here?" my brother asked. He said it the way he said most things, with a light edge of amusement, as if whatever I was doing was probably a little bit funny. "I own the building," I said. There was a silence. "I want to be very clear about something. I did not plan this moment. I had no script. What I had was a clipboard with HVAC sign-off sheets and a conversation I had not had in 2 years, and I was now having it in the 4th-floor hallway of my own property, while a leasing coordinator I'd never met stood at the reception desk pretending to organize papers. My father said, "You own the building." "My company does," I said. 70%. My business partner holds the other 30. I looked at my brother. "How long have you been in Suite 401? 3 weeks, he said. He was watching me with a different expression now. The amusement was gone. We moved from the Burnside location. Lease was up. I nodded. I made a note on my clipboard that was absolutely not about the HVAC. "Well," I said, "I'm here for a contractor walkthrough. I'll be out of your way." My mother said, "Claire, wait." I waited. She came toward me and I watched her calculate something, the distance between us, the 2 years, the brass buttons on her coat. She stopped about 4 feet away. "We didn't know it was your building," she said. "I know," I said. "The management company handles leasing. My name's not on the standard documents." "How are you?" she asked. It was such a strange question. It was the question you asked someone you'd run into at a grocery store, someone you'd lost track of without meaning to. Not someone you had called 3 times in 26 months. I know, because I checked and not once left a message. "I'm well," I said. "Thank you." My father stepped forward. He looked older than I remembered. He'd lost weight, or maybe it was the lighting, or maybe 2 years just does that to people when they're carrying something heavy. "You should come see the new office," he said. "Suite 401. Kyle did the layout himself." "I'm sure he did," I said. My brother put his hands in his pockets. "Business has been a little rough," he said, and the casualness of it, the way he offered it like a small piece of news, like weather, made something in my chest go very still. "Market's tough, but we're stabilizing." I thought about the lease application summary. Strong payment history. But that was historical data, not current. I made a mental note to ask David for the full financial file on Suite 401. "I'll let you all get settled," I said. "The management company will be your main contact for anything building related. If you need anything, have dinner with us," my mother said. I looked at her. "Tonight," she said. "Please. It's been so long. We miss you." I thought about saying no. I want to be transparent about that too. But I had already decided, in the elevator, that I was not going to make any decisions in this hallway based on what I was feeling. Feelings were information. They were not instructions. "I'll think about it," I said. "I have your number." I did the contractor walkthrough. I signed the HVAC sheets. I took the elevator down, walked to my car, and called David. "Pull the full file on Suite 401, I said. "Harlow and Sons. Tell me everything." The financial file told me a story I had already guessed in outline, but not in detail. Harlow and Sons had borrowed heavily twice in the 18 months after I left. First, to fund the rebrand my brother had championed, which included a new logo, a downtown Portland showroom, and a marketing consultant, who apparently charged the kind of fees that require a line of credit. Then again, 8 months later, to cover a contract shortfall when their largest commercial client had moved their business to a competitor. The company was currently servicing approximately $800,000 in business debt across 2 lenders. Their monthly revenue was, based on the financials attached to the lease application, covering operating costs but leaving almost nothing for debt service. They were not behind yet, but the math was not going to hold. I sat with this information for a long time. I want to be clear about my motivations, because I think they matter. I was not sitting there feeling satisfied. I was not feeling vindicated or triumphant. What I was feeling was something closer to tired. Tired of carrying the weight of what had happened. Tired of the 2-year silence. And curious, in a very specific and practical way, about what I was going to do with the fact that my family's struggling business was currently paying rent into my bank account every month. I called David again. "Who holds the larger of the 2 notes?" I asked. "Cascade Business Lending," he said. $550, 18-month term, coming up on renewal. "Are they looking to exit the position?" A pause. "I can find out," David said. "Claire, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking I want to have dinner with my parents tonight," I said. "And I want to know everything before I do." Dinner was at my parents' house, the same split level in Lake Oswego where I'd grown up. My mother made pot roast. My father opened a bottle of wine he'd clearly chosen carefully. A good Willamette Valley Pinot, not the everyday table wine he usually poured. My brother was there with his girlfriend, Amber, who was perfectly pleasant and clearly had no idea there was anything unusual about this dinner. We talked about nothing for 40 minutes. The house, the neighborhood, a cousin's new baby, Amber's job at a marketing agency, the pot roast, which was genuinely good. Then my father set down his fork. "We need to talk about the company," he said. "I had been waiting for this. The renewal on our main credit line is coming up," he said. "Cascade is making noises about tightening the terms. Higher rate, shorter term. Kyle has been in conversations with them, but..." He stopped, looked at his wine. "It would help significantly if we had a private investor willing to take on part of the debt. Someone who understood the business." I looked at my brother. My brother looked at the tablecloth. "You want me to invest in Harlow and Sons?" I said. "We want you to come back," my mother said quickly. "Not just the money. You. You were good at what you did, Claire. We all know that. Better than we said at the time," my father said. He did not look up when he said it. I thought about the board meeting I hadn't been invited to. The shares valued at 7-year-old numbers. My brother in the doorway, already knowing what was going to be said. "How much are you looking for?" I asked. My brother named a number. It was $400,000. He said it carefully, like he'd practiced it. "That's a significant ask," I said. "It's a family company," my brother said. "And you have, clearly you've done well. The building, alone." "The building has a mortgage," I said. "Like all buildings." "Right. But, how did you know I owned the building?" I asked. "When I walked off the elevator this morning, you didn't seem surprised. You seemed..." I paused. "You seemed like you'd already done the math." Silence. My father cleared his throat. "David Lynn's name came up," my brother said, "in a Portland Business Journal piece about the Meridian Tower acquisition. We looked into the partnership structure. Your name is on the LLC, so they had known for some time. Maybe longer than 3 weeks. I nodded slowly. "I need some time to think," I said. "Of course," my mother said. "Take whatever time you need." On the drive home, I called David. "Cascade," I said. "I want to make an offer on that note." What happened next took 11 days and required 2 attorneys, a lot of patience, and a conversation with Cascade Business Lending that I found genuinely interesting, because the loan officer on the other end of the call had clearly already decided this borrower was more trouble than the return justified. Cascade wanted out. The renewal negotiations with my brother had apparently not gone well. They were willing to sell the note at a 7% discount, meaning I would pay approximately $511,000 to acquire a $550,000 debt owed by Harlow and Sons. I wired the funds on a Thursday. On Friday, I called my brother. "I made a decision," I said. "That's great," he said. I could hear the relief starting in his voice before I'd said anything else. "So you're in? You'll take the equity position?" "I'm not taking an equity position," I said. "I acquired your Cascade note. I'm your new primary creditor." The silence on the other end of the line was different from the silence at dinner. That one had been calculated. This one was real. "You what?" "Cascade sold me your business debt," I said. $550, at current terms. You'll receive formal notice from my attorney next week, but I wanted to call you first. "Claire, the terms are identical to your existing agreement," I said. "Monthly payment, same schedule, same interest rate. I'm not changing anything." Then what? He stopped. Started again. "Then what's the point?" "The point," I said, "is that I want quarterly financial disclosures. Full profit and loss, balance sheet, cash position, sent to my attorney on the 1st of each quarter. You can't just..." "It's a standard creditor covenant," I said. "Your attorney can confirm. It's actually less restrictive than what Cascade was asking for in the renewal." Another silence. Longer this time. "You're going to sit there," he said, "and watch us." "I'm going to stay informed," I said. "That's what creditors do." "This is about what happened with your shares. This is about a business transaction," I said, "which is all anything ever was." I heard him exhale. Then, "I need to tell Dad." "That's your decision," I said. "I'll be in touch through my attorney going forward. I want to tell you what happened at my parents' house the following Sunday, because it was the conversation that actually mattered, not the phone call with my brother, not the wire transfer, not the 11 days of legal work. The conversation that mattered was the one my father drove to my apartment to have, without calling first, without the bottle of wine, without my mother there as a buffer. I let him in. I made coffee. We sat at my kitchen table. He was quiet for a long time. I let him be quiet. "You didn't take the investment position," he said finally. "No." "Why not?" I thought about how to answer that honestly. "Because an investment position means I'm betting on the company's future," I said. "A debt position means I'm protected regardless." He looked at his coffee cup. "You don't think we have a future. I think you have a chance," I said. "I think Kyle is smart enough to stabilize the business if he focuses and stops spending on things that look good in the short term. I think you know your customers. I think the fundamentals are solid if the overhead comes down. Then why not invest?" "Because the last time I had equity in that company," I said, "the board bought it back at 7-year-old numbers." He didn't say anything. "I needed you to say it was unfair," I said. "Not at the time. I understand that was complicated. But at some point, even once," my father looked up. "It was unfair," he said. I hadn't expected it to hit the way it did. I'd spent 2 years being completely fine, building things, moving forward, genuinely not waiting for this moment. And then it arrived, and I had to look out my kitchen window for a few seconds to collect myself. "Thank you," I said. "I didn't fight for you," he said. "Kyle came to me with the restructuring plan, and I took the path of least resistance, because he's my son, and because I was tired, and because I told myself you were young enough to land somewhere else." He paused. "That wasn't a reason. That was an excuse." "Yes," I said. "It was." "What do you want from us, Claire?" he asked. "Not from the business. From us." I thought about that question very seriously before I answered it, because it was the first real question any of them had asked me. "I want honesty," I said. "I don't want to be managed. I don't want Sunday dinners where we talk about the neighbor's new fence while the actual things go unsaid. If you need something, tell me directly. If something's wrong, tell me. If my brother makes a decision I need to know about, tell me. That's it." "And the debt?" "The debt is business," I said. "The debt has nothing to do with what I just told you." He nodded slowly. "Kyle isn't going to like this arrangement," he said. "I know," I said. "Kyle doesn't have to like it. He thinks you're punishing him." Kyle borrowed $550,000 and couldn't manage his creditor relationship well enough to keep them from selling the note, I said. "If he'd done that, this conversation doesn't exist. I'm not his punishment. I'm the consequence of a business decision he made." My father almost smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "You sound like your grandfather," he said. "Good," I said. The first quarterly disclosure arrived on April 1st. I appreciated the date without commenting on it. David reviewed the documents and called me that afternoon. "Revenue is actually up," he said. 8% over last quarter. "Operating costs down. Looks like they cut the marketing consultant and closed the showroom." "Smart," I said. "Kyle sent a cover letter," David said. "You want me to read it?" "Summary's fine. He says the business is on track for positive cash flow by Q3. He says the rebrand, in retrospect, was a mistake. He says." David paused. "He says he underestimated you." I looked out my office window at the Pearl District below, the rain-slicked street, the coffee shop on the corner where I'd signed the paperwork on my first property. "Tell him I look forward to the Q2 report," I said. My mother called me that evening. We talked for 45 minutes about nothing important, mostly. About a show she'd been watching and a book I'd recommended, and the weather in Lake Oswego. But near the end of the call, she said something I've thought about since. "I used to tell myself you were too independent," she said. "That you didn't need us the same way Kyle did. I used that to make it easier." "I know," I said. "You did need us." "Yes," I said. "I did. I'm sorry it took so long," she said. I told her I'd see her Sunday. I told her I'd bring something for dessert. She asked if I'd bring the lemon tart from the bakery on 23rd, the one I'd brought once 4 years ago that she still talked about. I told her I would. The lease on Suite 401 renews in 2 years. I haven't decided yet whether I'll give them a rate adjustment. I've been going back and forth on it. David thinks I should hold firm. Market rate is market rate, and sentiment is not a real estate strategy. He's right about that, and I'm still thinking. What I know is this. I have 41 employees across 4 properties. I have a business partner who answers his phone on Sundays. I have a lemon tart to pick up before noon on Sunday. I have a brother who is, for the first time in his professional life, filing quarterly reports to someone who will actually read them. And I have a father who told me the truth when it would have been easier not to. The building is doing well. The numbers look good for Q3. My name is on the directory in the lobby. And sometimes, when I walk past it, I think about my grandfather, who built something from nothing and gave me 18% of it, and died before he got to see what I did with it. I think he would have found all of this extremely funny. I think he would have said, "That's my girl."